One of Leonardo DiCaprio's biggest career regrets and one of the biggest casting what-ifs of all time was Leo playing Dirk Diggler in Boogie Nights. One battle after another may not be a time machine, but like Boogie Nights, it goes hard. I'm Mike Calabro, and this is my review of One Battle After Another.
Sir, do you know your last name?
Batman.
Boogie Nights is one of my favorite movies of all time. My dad recorded it off HBO in the late 90s, and like when him and my mom used to go to sleep at night on the weekends, I would sneak downstairs, snag the tape, and quietly watch it and rewatch that movie in my room without them ever knowing. I'm not entirely sure what came first, my love of movies or my love of Boogie Nights. Regardless, P.T. Anderson is back with One Battle After Another, a film I'm so excited for. I rewatched most of his back catalog and read the 1990 Thomas Pynchon novel it's loosely based on. Despite the absurdly high expectations I set for this movie, Paul Thomas Anderson's first $100 million movie budget delivers an S-tier PTA flick about a stoner ex-extremist trying to reunite with his daughter before a colonel with a penchant for martial law and secrets to hide could get to her first. Let's start with the plot. The film follows Leonardo DiCaprio as Bob Ferguson, a former lefty revolutionary, as he raises his daughter Willa, played by Chase Infiniti. He's been living in hiding ever since things went bad for his revolutionary group, the French 75.
All right, I was part of French 75 for years and years.
The film opens with the group's backstory, with one of its leaders, Perfidia Beverly Hills, played by Teyana Taylor, exclaiming, "Free borders, free choices, free from fear," before they forcibly release all the detainees in a detention center near the Mexican border. That line pretty much sums up the French 75's politics, who spend the rest of the first act robbing banks and blowing up buildings as a means to that end. The first act moves pretty quickly. Think Bonnie and Clyde, Wild at Heart, Queen and Slim, the romantic outlaws plot on fast forward. Think a lot of sex and violence, but with a twist. Perfidia may be hot and heavy with Bob, but there's also a simmering sub-dom sexual tension building between her and Sean Penn's Colonel Lockjaw, who has had the hots for her ever since he got a massive erection while being held up by Perfidia during the detention liberation scene.
I'll be seeing you very soon.
Not if I see you first.
That sexual tension ultimately pays off in one of the strangest sex scenes I've seen in a while. It's kind of like that sex scene in The Sopranos between Richie Aprile and Janice, but the roles are reversed. If you know the one, you know the one. I've actually got a lot to say about this scene, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, the freewheeling rebellion of the French 75 ultimately comes to an end after a botched bank robbery and Perfidia's arrest, which sends everyone into hiding. 16 years later, Lockjaw is back on the hunt for Bob and his daughter. Willa goes missing, and Bob has to battle with his past and years of substance abuse in his quest to reunite with his daughter.
What are you gonna do about this baby?
I'm not trying to give away the whole plot here, just enough for context and to highlight what really makes this plot sing, the performances. And we need to start with Teyana Taylor. Perfidia Beverly Hills owns the first act and is the kind of femme fatale that would make Faye Dunaway and Sharon Stone blush. Taylor's performance goes far deeper than just being a smoke show who brings out the worst in Bob and Lockjaw, especially after she has Willa. She does an incredible job of externalizing Perfidia's struggles with depression, guilt, and the loss of the individual autonomy that comes with starting a family. When she tells Bob, "I put myself first," and storms out, you understand why. And later, when she regrets her decisions, you feel for her then too. The end of the film, how it tugs on your heartstrings, wouldn't have been nearly as effective if it weren't for Taylor's performance.
I want you to create a show. This is an announcement on revolution.
You know what they say, like mother, like daughter. Chase Infiniti's Willa is the heart and soul of the film. Unfortunately, for the purposes of this review, some of Infiniti's best scenes are really spoiler-laden, but that isn't so with Infiniti's first scene with Leo. You've seen the scene before, the responsible child scolding the irresponsible parent, but not one written by PTA. One of the biggest laughs in the theater was when Bob responds to Willa's grilling with, "I know how to drink and drive. I know what I'm doing." They bicker for sure, but it's clear that they care for each other, which Bob shows by threatening her friends in that fatherly way, while also casually insulting them as they pick her up to go to a high school dance.
Listen, tell you something, whatever you do to her, I'm gonna do that exact same thing to your entire family.
Wait, what? We're talking about freedom, baby.
Moments like these give one battle after another its soul. This is a very politically charged film, but it's scenes like this that transcend the politics and remind the audience that this is a film at its core about a father trying to connect with his daughter.
I need to find my daughter.
Well, then call us back when you have the time.
Bob Ferguson is an odd mix of Leo's previous characters. Think of Bob as a cross between Jordan Belfort's love of drugs and Ernest Burkhardt's stupidity. Bob genuinely loves his daughter, but he's not the brightest bulb, and he's been dimming thanks to decades of drugs and alcohol, which is unfortunate because he's being hunted. And he has this great ongoing bit throughout the film that's heavily featured in the trailer, with Bob on a payphone talking to someone from the Resistance, but he can't remember the super secret password.
You know, I don't remember that part. All right, let's just not nitpick over the passwords.
After multiple interactions between Bob and this mysterious voice on the phone, he goes full Karen, essentially demanding to talk to this revolutionary's manager. Luckily for Bob, the voice's superior was an old Fringe 75 member who knew Bob personally and asked him a question only the real Bob would know.
If you can't answer what time is it, I cannot give you the rendezvous point.
Despite all the booze and drugs, Bob of course knows the answer to this question, which ends up being a very funny button to a multi-scene plotline.
For the life of me, or the life of my only child, the answer to your question, what time is it?
8:15.
Leo's performance as a degenerate f***up revolutionary isn't all about laughs. It's got heart too, especially when he connects with Benicio del Toro's Sensei Sergio. In the production notes, Leo refers to Sensei Sergio as Bob's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
May the force be with you!
And it's kind of true, but in like a PTA way. And while he does help Bob out and is a rebellious do-gooder himself, he's not in the film as much as the trailers would lead you to believe. There's one scene where he and Bob are sharing road sodas, and Bob is being real vulnerable about Willa. But just because it's heartfelt doesn't mean it's not funny. It's that scene that culminates in Del Toro's "freedom means no fear" like Tom Cruise line. Man, great line. And then Leo jumps out of the car. If this film has an Obi-Wan, it must also have a Darth Vader. Cue Sean Penn. Like the Sith Lord, Penn is also despicably evil and absolutely captivating. Part pervert, part right-wing psychopath, Penn plays Lockjaw kind of like a mix of A Few Good Men's Colonel Nathan R. Jessup and General Jack D. Ripper from Dr. Strangelove. But instead of being obsessed with the fluids mandrake, he's more concerned with the semen demon. Penn's Lockjaw carries himself in the same way as those military men, but adds an element of humor to the character. There's a scene where he's being recruited to join a cabal of ultra-rich white nationalists who call themselves the Christmas Adventurers Club. He's clearly nervous, so he decides to comb his hair by awkwardly licking his comb. It's a moment that shows some of the insecurities bubbling under the surface of Colonel Stephen J. Lockjaw.
We are here to award Stephen Lockjaw with the Medal of Honor.
The Christmas Adventurers Club. What kind of fucking goofy ass club name is that? It sounds like something out of a Thomas Pynchon novel. Well, it's not, but it sounds like it could be. It's no secret that the movie is a loose adaptation of Thomas Pynchon's 1990 novel Vineland. This would be PTA's second Pynchon movie after 2011's Inherent Vice, but this adaptation feels more along the lines of how There Will Be Blood is an adaptation of Oil by Upton Sinclair, but looser.
I have a competition in me. I want no one else to succeed.
PTA's adaptation preserves most of the ways the characters remain connected, but strips away all of the novel's socio-political context. Vineland's Brock Vaughn and his war on drugs at the behest of the Reagan administration is replaced with Colonel Lockjaw's war on immigration and his willingness to enact martial law at the behest of a secret society of rich white Americans that are pulling the strings of government in an attempt to keep the US safe and pure. Vineland's 24 frames per second collective has been replaced with the French 75 revolutionaries who believe in free borders, free choices, free from fear. One battle after another draws a clear line in the sand politically. There's no such thing as neutral bystanders. Every character in this film has picked a side. They're either part of the revolutionaries trying to help the downtrodden, or they help the secret cabal of elites trying to bring about a racially pure America. But heavy stakes like that doesn't mean PTA isn't willing to try to adapt some of Pynchon's absurdist humor. There's an order of nuns who train revolutionaries and grow weed called the Sisters of the Brave Beaver. As for the Christmas Adventurers Club, that's the guild of calamitous intent that Lockjaw's trying to join. How fun! And they greet each other by saying, "Hail Saint Nick." It's an almost childish auditory take on Hail Satan, but you know what? It fucking works. Good for PTA. His instinct to take the parts he liked from Vineland and fill in the rest was definitely the right move, especially for a movie that costs over $100 million. A straightforward, if a Pynchon novel can be that way, adaptation of Vineland probably wouldn't have netted a better film, and it certainly wouldn't have made a more accessible one. And for those of you who are like me and read Vineland to prep, good news, that time wasn't wasted. This movie will make so much more sense for you right from the jump. For those of you who haven't read it, you might get a little lost in the beginning with everything going on in the first act. It sets up a lot, but trust me, it all makes sense, and it will, especially on repeated viewings. And now for the man of the hour, the writer, the director, the co-cinematographer, Paul Thomas Anderson. To be blunt, I'm still in awe that this film actually exists. It was so much fun to watch, while also telling a timeless story about what a father would go through to protect his daughter. And he does all of this while managing to make his most expensive movie to date of original-ish IP. One Battle After Another is estimated to have cost between $130 and $175 million. PTA's biggest earner, There Will Be Blood, only brought in like $70-some million at the box office and cost $25 million to make. And you could see where that $100-and-some million went on screen. There's not one, but two car chases, each distinct, especially the climactic one. I can't recall Hills using a car chase to such dramatic effect. Bullitt used the film's trick for one shot. See how these cars kind of come up and down out of view? PTA built a whole chase out of these oscillating roads, building attention in a way that would make Alfred Hitchcock proud. That oscillating rhythm of the car going in and out of sight is an incredible visual foreshadowing of how Willa will ultimately fight back. I won't say more. As great as a car chase is, it takes more than that and some fat stacks to hold my attention for not quite, but almost 3 hours.
You have to understand, Willa.
Me and Mom used to run around and do some real bad shit.
We're so lucky that PTA decided to make his blank check movie 30 years into his career. This movie's pacing relies on narrative tricks he developed on his older, cheaper movies like Magnolia and Boogie Nights. Like those movies, One Battle After Another also starts in a frantic burst of exposition. Scenes are short and the camera basically never stops moving, allowing PTA to cover a lot of narrative ground quickly. However, as the plot thickens, with Anderson spending time letting layers of the character drama just peel away, scenes start to take longer. He thus has to rely on editing to convey a juxtaposition of thematic elements to keep audiences enticed. Look at Magnolia. The film starts with the rapid telling of the 3 unrelated deaths to convey its focus on coincidence before setting up all of the plot lines of the characters and how their seemingly unrelated stories will eventually affect each other.
And so it goes, and so it goes, and the book says, we may be through with the past, but the past ain't through with us.
PTA employs these speedy narrative hacks in One Battle After Another, albeit this time with more expensive stunts and action, to set up the French 75's history. But once the group disbands, he uses the Magnolia editing techniques to create interesting juxtapositions that contrast Bob's parent-teacher conference with Lockjaw's conditional acceptance into the Christmas Adventurers. Both are moments of pride for the men. To be clear, this is what a director working at his peak looks like. One Battle After Another is without a doubt amazing. Go see it in 70mm, go see it in any theater you can, please. Witness this in the theater experience. But I still have to ask the question, is it a masterpiece? Frankly, I've spent an absurd amount of time trying to figure out the difference between a 9 and a 10. What does an abstract 1 better mean? Then on my drive back, it kind of just like hit me. Who says a review scale is linear, with each number being equally spaced from the other? We're measuring art with numbers here, for Christ's sake. It's all a construction we've collectively made up. So let me ask, what happens if the gaps between the numbers in the middle of the spectrum, say like from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, etc., are larger than the quality gap between the numbers at the end of the spectrum? We may not care much about the nuanced improvements between an unbearable 1 and a painful 2, but we can probably agree they are slight. And if the differences are slight at that end of the spectrum, then logic reasons that the differences are also slight on the other. The point I'm trying to make here is that the elements that separate an amazing film from a masterpiece are slight. Know that this 10 that I'm about to drop, I'm not doing lightly. There are so many subtle things that make this film just that much better. Take the sex scene I mentioned earlier. PTA uses a Scorsese-esque needle drop of Soldier Boy by the Shirelles as Perfidia holds Lockjaw's own gun to his back as she pleasures him. But then PTA smash cuts to an extremely pregnant Perfidia shooting the machine gun.
I felt like Tony Montana!
This is like literally all of the same shit I'm saying that he does well. Like the camera keeps on moving and he's using editing juxtapositions to fucking make his point. It's insane. At first glance, you could argue that that sequence is vulgar, but it's not. It's PTA in perfect control of his characters and the tone. To be clear, this scene should be crass. That's the point. The same could be said for the Steely Dan dirty work needle drop as we're introduced to a teenage Willa and her dad's parent-teacher conference prep of smoking weed in the car. Steely's easy listening yacht rock perfectly embodies the vibe of their exile, but the lyrics hint at something else. Even the things PTA whole cloth invented for the film, the harmony transponders, Bob forgetting the code words, the Christopher Reeves Superman poster in Sensei Sergio's dojo, Semen Demon, the car chases, the stunt fall off a building down a tree. There are so many tiny details, seemingly inconsequential touches, the filmmaker's style, if you will, that all add up bit by bit to turn this movie from amazing into a masterpiece.
Yeah. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you.
For more IGN reviews, be sure to check out our review for Gen V. But if you'd like to watch Clint and I talk more about PTA's first masterpiece, Boogie Nights, be sure to check out our podcast, Cinefix Top 100.